Mabuhay, Kamustika, welcome, how are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Today's video is called No Small Feat, Early American Struggles for My Filipina Wife. There's always homesickness. That's going to be a problem when your Filipina comes here from another country. Yes, she may have desired for a long time to come to a place like America, for example, but that doesn't mean that when she gets to America, she's going to be all right, that she's not going to think about everything that she's left behind. And it is a big adjustment, and she might get on that plane and fly to your country, and then all of a sudden it hits her that she's a long way from home, and it's going to be an adjustment. So I just want to talk about some of those things so you'll be prepared. Just being away from family. Family is everything in the Philippines, and I admire that. Now, I wouldn't want to be living with, 12 family members under the same roof, or more. But family is big in the Philippines, and I do admire that. Our family was always small. Pretty much now it's my mother and her sister and and her son, and that's about it. So my wife comes from a big family to now a very small family, but when she's away from that family, it's going to hurt. She's going to be Skyping a lot or Facebooking, whatever your Filipina is using for social media. Skype really isn't social media, but it's a way of communicating back home, and be patient with her on this because she's probably going to be doing it a lot because she's left everyone and everything, and she's so far away. It took my wife probably about a day and a half to get here, and by that time you've had a lot of time to think, and you've also realized just how far away you are from everyone. And you also don't know when you're going to return to the Philippines. I mean, you don't know if or when you'll return. That kind of depends on, if you can work or not and how well off your husband is doing. Now, I think for me, this is something I would be willing to sacrifice for. I told her she can go back as often as she needs to. There may be a time where there's a funeral or something like that, or she's just very, very homesick. But, I give her credit for being able to leave everyone and everything behind, because it's tough. And my wife cried in the plane. She would cry when I would come home from work before she started working. She would clean herself up when she saw me coming in, or in the parking lot. She would collect herself because she had been crying, and so that she would know that I didn't see her crying. But she admitted to it. It's really a difficult thing. In time she will adjust, but you need to be patient. You need to treat her well. Don't give her any more difficulties because she's already conflicted about this enough as it is. Just getting to America, it's 4 flights from Davao City, Philippines to where we live here in Nebraska, and it's a long time, a lot of layovers. It takes a day and a half if there's no weather trouble. That could take another day, and she has to get through immigrate or customs. She's never flown internationally before. She did get lost some, but she found where she needed to be, and that's a real hassle. Just getting here can be frustrating. The environment, the United States, where we are, there's a lot of buildings and concrete and steel. In the Philippines, where she comes from, it's beautiful. Now, in the city, it's not so great, but if you're out in the country, you see such beauty. It's breathtaking. Even I was a little bit down when I came back from the Philippines when we were there the second time, and we got into Los Angeles, and I saw the buildings and the streets, the highways, everything, and it was so unappealing compared to the place we just left. And so that's a big shock to a Filipina. One of the things she commented on early was, where are the neighbors? In the Philippines, everybody lives so compacted together, so closely together. Here, where we live, the streets are wide and nobody ever seems to be outside very much. Now, maybe when the summer comes, you'll see some children out playing, but even then, often, there's just nobody there. And if she's already lonely, coming to a place where she doesn't even see any neighbors, that makes it harder. So, which reminds me, you're going to have to help her to find friends. And so church is a good place to do that. I'll have a video on that as well. The weather is going to be something to get used to. My wife got here in January of 2016, of course, the coldest time of the year. There was one day we went downtown for something. I don't know if it was her Social Security card we were trying to get, but it was so cold, you couldn't even feel your fingers. And that must have been quite a shock to her, because I've been to the Philippines twice, and I always tell her it's like 200 degrees. And it's not that hot, but it sure feels like it. It's really humid, uncomfortable, and but she actually thinks the summers here are worse. I don't know how, but she does, and she also has winter to go through, and that's a big shock. There are some Filipinos that say they like the cold weather. Most of them, however, do not. So make sure she can buy all kinds of warm clothes. How about currency? I was scared to go to the Philippines and just, I didn't know that the money situation was. What a 10 pesos, 25 pesos, 50 pesos, whatever that was worth, or what it looked like, what the bills were, just terrible. And my wife here, to adjust to the currency, she took some little buckets of protein powder that I had, and I was done with it, and she would mark one for pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters and silver dollars or dollar bills. Any change she had, she would just put it in there, and that's how she learned to get used to the currency. And once in a while, the first few months, she would ask me, is this 5 cents or is this a nickel? And it just makes me realize, yeah, she's in a completely different environment. But right now, she handles it well. She doesn't need that. She's got her own checking account, debit card, credit card. She's adjusted very well to the currency. Now, just how about where anything is? I went to, when I first moved away from home, that was South Dakota, or Minnesota, then South Dakota. I thought I was on the other side of the world, and I didn't know where anything was, and it was very uncomfortable. She's come from a different culture, from the other side of the world, and she didn't know where anything was. Thankfully, there's a thing called GPS. She's got her own car that she pays for with her own money from the job that she has. I work 46 hours a week. She works more than that. And she's very good with money, by the way. But she can use that GPS and get all around town. In fact, even without it, she remembers places better than I do. I'm just not good at that. She apparently is. She's going to have to go to a new church. Our church is quite a bit different than her church. I did have the pleasure of going to one church service with her. It was kind of loud and more or less kind of a younger church, kind of contemporary, you would call it. And ours, where I was and where she goes now, about 75 people. There's a lot of elderly people there, but they're not all elderly. And so that the style of worship and the demographics was different for her. And just loneliness. If she's not working right away or be busy with something, she's going to be lonely. And I just want you to understand these things, because there's a lot of adjustments. It may be she's never used a washing machine before, things like that. I mean, you just take it for granted. But there's so many things to learn. It can be exciting for her, but it can also be intimidating for her. So be patient with your wife, and give her some space to adapt, and you'll be very happy that you found your love beyond the sea.